Hey guys, welcome back to the channel here. Now, this looks a little different and this video will be very different to ones on the channel. Now, here we have the playoff picture, and I know it looks a lot different from the last time that we were on this channel. We will be going in depth about the playoffs later in the video, but here, before we go into the two games that we missed last week, I do want to say thank you for your patience. I've been going through some stuff at home when it comes to basically an infestation of sorts, and I was not able to really be on my computer since it was in the room of the worst part of it. It is mostly fine now, and I'm going to be getting back to making these videos. Also, work has been crazy, but all those updates are in the Discord down below. If a video doesn't come out, if there's stories on here that you haven't heard, then they will be in the Discord. I will also go over the FFL awards from the end of the season, and I'll be going through draft story updates. Now, some of them will be from the Discord and some will be new. So if you're from the Discord, then you might already know some of these, but I know a lot of people aren't who watch these videos, and I know the ones that I've been using Madden 23 in the title have been getting a lot more views. So make sure to go down there as well. Also, the Hawks are still being renamed next season, and they're moving to Brooklyn still. And it's between the Brooklyn Bombers and the Brooklyn Bulls. The link to vote is in the description down below as well. But here with this video, I'm just here to show you the two games in the rest of the season that are available. Now, they are in a montage format. I did not have enough time to edit all of them down for the rest of the season. But it also doesn't matter because we solidified with the win over the Demons last week. Well, I guess it'd be 2 weeks from this video. That we made not just a spot in the playoffs, but we solidified basically home field. So the last two games of the season do not matter for us, but they are with the Revolution and the Guardians, who are both big rivals. I was just going to skip them, but I at least wanted to show you some highlights from the games, since one game was really good and one game kind of wasn't. Originally, this video was going to have also the first playoff game, but again, I ran out of time and I don't have time to record that game and do everything else. Like I said too, this video will have the awards and the updates for the draft stories, which there are quite a few. So you're going to be hearing my voice a lot, and there's only going to be a few minutes of gameplay. If this isn't your type of video, next week we'll have the first playoff game of the year, and it'll be with the Cavalry and the Guardians, so you're actually going to see a rematch from one of the montage games. So, before we get into the montage, thank you guys for being very patient, and here we go.
Mistakes like that, I'll play it on your face to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad, and now you gon' wish you would shut the fuck up real bad. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. I don't fucking take smoke, I'ma poke a hole through you, choking's overdue. Come at me and you won't get any older, dude, crack your holder too. Heating up inside of me, blood so violently, thanks for trying me. Now it's finally time to see how this rivalry becomes a dynasty. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll play it on your face to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad, and now you gon' wish you would shut the fuck up real bad.
And that's it for the montage here. The Cavalry lost to the Guardians 21-17, and then they won against the Philadelphia Revolution 40-6. Now, Cavalry are on fire this season. Now, they did lose, like I said, to New York, but they've been pretty unstoppable. They even broke a record having 3 separate rushers, Jackson Thomas, Reed Weathers, and Darren Morris, all breaking 1,000 yards apiece of rushing. That is one of the most dominant rushing teams to ever set foot onto the field. And on top of that, their defense with Ralph White coming out of nowhere, becoming one of the best CBs in the league. The Cavalry are looking unstoppable. But now, let's look at the FFL awards with another interesting winner this year. We're going to start from the top. MVP goes to our best edge rusher, Ahmad Rice. He actually missed out for half the season, almost, I think about the first 5 games. And he came out as a top 3 sack leader and led the league in most pressures by any player. He had over 100 pressures in half the season, basically. He was unstoppable. When he would get free rushes to the quarterback, he would sack them. And honestly, no one could block him. They would have to double or even triple team him to even stop him. And that's why him moving to the Cavalry was probably the most impactful trade before the season started, and why he gets MVP. Him by himself changed that Cavalry defense. They went from a good, like, they still ranked, I believe, number 1 last year in defense, but if you watch them, they had a lot of holes and a lot of issues on defense. And now this year, really, every once in a while, people would run a lot on them, but passing-wise, they would be dominant against offenses. Offensive Player of the Year goes to running back Desmond Damon for the Stallions. He actually didn't have super crazy numbers as a running back. I mean, he had 1,500 rushing yards, which is really good. He had a good average yards per game. But what really solidified him being Offensive Player of the Year is the fact that he had over 120 receptions as a running back. He had close to, or if not more than 1,000 yards of receiving, plus the 1,500. He basically almost matched Reed Weathers' full-on rushing attack with both of those. I mean, total yards, Desmond Damon is insane. Defensive Player of the Year, again, goes to Edge Ahmad Rice. It could have went also to almost Rookie of the Year, Carry On Max Attack, for him having, I believe, an interception. He was top 10 in sacks. He had a lot of tackles, too, especially for a guy who wasn't known to be good in space. But instead, we had to go with Ahmad Rice. He was too dominant in half the season that he played. I mean, he's insane. Rookie of the Year goes to, surprisingly, running back Isaac Taylor Johnson. He had a slow start to the season, but once the Bullheads really started giving him the ball, he is a top 10 back, if not a top 5 back, and he is insane. If you look at the game against the Cavalry, he was one of the few running backs that really gave them issues because he was a lot like Reed Weathers, except bigger. I mean, you could not get your hands on that guy. Comeback Player of the Year is quarterback Terrence Thomas. He flamed out years ago due to his weight issues. Him and Jackson Thomas, quarterback for the Cavalry, really trained together, got better, came into the league again, and then he kind of did flame out with the Firebirds. And he ends up on the Pittsburgh Dynasty, where he plays with his former wide receiver Perry Polak, and they both have top years together. I think for the Dynasty to go forward, they have to keep them together and rely on this passing attack while Ty Banks retires from running back. Overall, the awards were very surprising this season, and some of the top players are going to be coming up real fast in stars, and some of our best players are actually be going down due to age and due to just not playing as well. So it's going to be very surprising to see the progression this year. But now, let's look into the playoffs more closely as we go into the playoff season. To start off, we're going to look obviously at the Cavalry versus the Guardians. Some of the best teams in the league. Now, the Guardians are still missing their top pass rusher, Zach Swenson, who was forced to retire after the very first game of the season, where in a very tragic accident where he got blocked weirdly, he broke his hip and now has to get a artificial hip. He already has the surgery. He is in rehab and relearning how to walk. It's very sad to see a very young pass rusher have to end his career like that. But the Guardians came out kind of slow this year, but they really came out and kept winning. I mean, they almost had the same record as the Cavalry, but due to the Cavalry having the first win over them, and with the Cavalry having more wins in the division, personally, I think that's why they got the home field advantage. Now, the Guardians are very explosive. They have former first-round quarterback Neve Watts, who has really came out to be one of the best passers ever since he left the Firebirds. I mean, he's losing more and more of his athletic ability, which he was known for, but he's really learning how to play that pocket, fire the ball down the field, and when he has a speedster like Dante McCurley, this offense is nearly unstoppable. I mean, the Cavalry have issues stopping this offense all season. Now, the thing is, though, is Neve Watts is, even though he's still the most accurate quarterback in the league, he is also losing some of that accuracy. People are rumoring that he has some sort of ankle issue that might need surgery over the offseason, and that he's actually missing throws because of it. He shouldn't be missing those throws, but he is. But luckily, he's still the most accurate quarterback. I think his placement just needs to be a little bit better. Now, for the next game as well, let's look right under them, where it's the Stallions versus the Revenge. Now, the Revenge have an aging defense. Now, they do have Noah Pilgrim, who's a great pass rusher, but their defense is getting older, and it's rumored that they're just going to up and cut Clay Gerwin because no one will. He's been on the trade block all season, and he's going to be on the trade block in the offseason, and it feels like no one's going to pick him up. Now, the Stallions, they have a great offense when it comes to McWilliams at quarterback. He's able to read defenses very well. Desmond Damon at running back. You have some solid receivers, especially in Travis Walter. I mean, this offense could really stop the Revenge. Now, what the Stallions don't realize, though, is the Revenge's offense is also elite. With one of the best rushing offenses with Chris the Jet Williams, who led the league in rushing all by himself, and with star quarterback William Fry from YouTube really showing that arm talent and athleticism at quarterback. I mean, the Revenge look like they could possibly take the East away from the Cavalry and the Stallions, or even the Guardians if the Guardians win. So that is the Atlantic/Eastern Conference of the playoff bracket. Now let's look in the Pacific. Now, weirdly, Chicago's in the Pacific, but it's going to be Tigers versus Walleyes. I don't see the Walleyes doing too great. I mean, they have a really good receiver, good quarterback, good offensive line, decent defense, but it's the Tigers. Electric Johnson, the best quarterback in the league. I mean, I don't see the Walleyes doing very well against the Tigers, just based on that fact alone, let alone the Tigers are looking like almost a new dynasty on the Pacific Conference. Now, lastly, we have Monarchs versus Hogs. So, the Hogs are, even though they lost their old head coach and quarterback in Richard Hung, they also got Warren Tanka at head coach, a former Hog himself, and he's really brought up this offense to what they need to be, and with a solid defense to back them up. And then LA, I mean, they used to be the dream team. It failed, but look at them now. I mean, it is a family affair with Bryce Young at backup quarterback, with, Brandon Young at receiver and CB, with Chris Young, the franchise, at quarterback, Receivers are stacked. Defense is stacked. I mean, there's very few holes that they have. Maybe pass rush, but that's it. The Monarchs, I mean, they're behind the Tigers for me, but I mean, they're the second best team in the West when it comes to the playoff bracket. Now, for me, I think it's going to come down to possibly the Cavalry and the Tigers, and out of that, the Tigers might take it. But now, let's look at the updated draft stories that either you've may missed from the Discord or are brand new to this. So, update with Tremendous Johnson and Jesse Barker. Now, Jesse Barker is actually going to be falling possibly in the draft due to his private workouts. Tremendous Johnson was on fire. He ran one of the fastest 40s in the history of defenses. And on top of that, some of the highest agility scores as well. Now, if you look at the tape, I mean, that was obvious. Jesse Barker mostly played near the box, and he just had a lot of picks because he was able to play zone coverage very well. And on top of that, he was on the best team. Tremendous Johnson, on the other hand, was on one of the worst teams, but where he was on the field, in the middle of the field, he did make some mistakes, but his zone coverage was spectacular, and he could play the ball very well. Big range, and, you know, when it comes to this, I personally think Tremendous Johnson is the better player. And a lot of rumors from scouts are saying the same. Jesse Barker was rumored to be the #1 pick. That might be a new defensive end, who I'm going to be coming up in the updates next. But I personally think Tremendous Johnson will be picked first, and Jesse Barker might not even be picked in the draft. Do I think that's fair? No. A safety with 6 interceptions in 3 games alone, I mean, that is all that needs to be said. I mean, his stats are insane for safeties. But will it transition to the FFL? Only time will tell, because we all know that Tremendous Johnson, you know, brother of Electric Johnson, on defense, I mean, what a story for that free safety right there. I mean, he's athletic and can play the ball very well, and I think will be a good safety. Now, next, let's look at defensive ends. Tape-wise, Javon Logan is probably the best defensive end / linebacker / edge in the whole draft. I mean, he led the league in sacks, he led the league in tackles, he was also top 5 in linebacker interceptions due to his defense playing a multiple front and moving him everywhere. Now, what he lacks is strength and speed. I mean, his agility is pretty good, but I mean, he's not a speedster. He's not a Mod Rice, where Rice can just play with power, play with speed, do all these moves. Logan's more of a technical guy. Now, does that mean he's bad? Absolutely not, but scouts are starting to fall off on him because his quote versatility could just been from the scheme. Whereas Jordan Valentine, I mean, you look at him, he doesn't really have any pass rush moves. He doesn't swim, he doesn't bull rush. I mean, a lot of it comes from him just running around tackles and guards because he's just so fast on stunts and everything. I mean, when he gets a wide open lane to the quarterback, it's an instant sack. The problem is getting that lane. And if he does get blocked, he literally had 0 pressures all season, not counting ones where he got sacks. Now, at the end of the season, though, he was on fire. I mean, there was a crazy play where he jumped up and intercepted a pass as the quarterback was throwing it. There was a play where, using his speed alone, he ran over a left tackle due to him being on a fake zone play and completely destroyed the running back in the backfield. Jordan Valentine also, in private workouts, which Javon Logan said no to, Valentine bursted up the draft stock because of his strength in his arms, the fact that he ran the fastest 40 of all defensive ends, and the fact that he really did show that he has a high motor and high stamina and can be on every single play. I guess the big question for both of these players is, are teams going to go with the known quantity of Javon Logan, or will they go with the high-end potential of Jordan Valentine? That is the big question. Now, there's rumors that whoever gets number 1 pick in the draft lottery will pick Jordan Valentine due to that upside, and I personally think that is a dumb idea, and any scout trying to support that idea is wrong. You need to go with Javon Logan, but sadly, I think more and more are going with Valentine. But now, let's get to the next story. Now, unlike the last story, which I forgot to also mention, that Valentine has really called out Logan and been very, very mean and nasty over social media, this draft story between the running backs Pablo Parker and Junior Young actually has been fully respectable. They love each other's game. Pablo Parker, he's not a big receiving back. I mean, he's Angel Akins, basically, when he came out of his draft. This guy, I mean, he came in and he led the developmental league in rushing yards. He's a full-on back. He's Darren Morris. He's, every running back we've seen who doesn't have a lot of receiving yards, but he can run the ball. And the fluidity in his steps, he may not have the fastest, top speed, but you see him make the cuts and read the blocks. I mean, he's a special player. But you also can say that about Junior Young, and on top of that, Young is one of the best receiving backs to ever come out of the draft. I mean, with Hunter Salamander, former Hall of Famer running back, as his head coach in developmental, has really taught him the receiving game. And on top of that, he has a brother who's a receiver. So his catching ability is insane, his route running is insane, and they've been very respectful over social media, and people are actually, a lot of scouts are split. If you're a team that likes to just run the ball in normal sets, Pablo Parker is your guy. But Junior Young can almost do the same thing, and he can be a receiving back, or go out to receiver, or even be a direct snap, quarterback. So, what is the deal? We just don't know. I personally think Young might be picked first, but if you pick Pablo Parker, that's not a bad pick either. But now, let's go into the last 2 stories. Only if these quarterbacks came out last year, with Jamie Brooks almost pretty much flaming out in Sacramento his first year, but there's not a lot of quarterback spots available. I mean, we're starting to find a lot of aging quarterbacks, and maybe in the future we might have another big quarterback class. But we only have 3 big quarterbacks coming out here, and possibly none of them will be drafted. Now that's sad, because James Hunter Frills II, the son of Al Frills, who is currently on the Tampa Bay Warhawks, who may retire since the season is over. I mean, JHF II, I mean, he is a gunslinger just like his father, but he works on that footwork every day, and he had an awful season. He threw these awful passes. I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, his team really sucked this year, but you can't do that. You're not Javon Hero, who in developmental and in high school, they said he had hero ball, because he would put the teams on his back, and he constantly won championships. Now, we haven't really seen that in Philly, but, James Hunter, he really needs to be better. Now, in his private workouts, he has shown, like I've said in the Discord, that his throw and the run ability is insane, and his arm talent is really good. It's pretty much elite. But he says that he was, his season was awful because of a hurt ankle he had, but that doesn't change it only changes your accuracy. That doesn't change the way you read defenses. And the fact is, his ability to read defenses is awful. He has no sense of just any type of defense, and he's willing to, hold the ball too long. And, he's a big guy, but he might get injured in the future, and what happens then? Now, with James Hunter Frills II, he is going up on boards because of his private workout, whereas Cortez Simmons is coming down because of his private workout. And the rumor from his team that he isn't a great leader, which I personally think is wrong. He came into a team that was 0-8, and he brought them back to the playoffs. And weirdly enough, so did Pop Warren, who is not on here. But, Pop Warren's an aging quarterback who was just in to, help out an injury. And so was Cortez Simmons. Simmons wasn't even supposed to play this year either. He was basically a, practice guy. He was overweight and, just was supposed to be for practice. But he suited up due to Adam Braithwaite getting injured, and he led that team back to the playoffs. Here's the issue, though. Going into the playoffs, he lost his spot back to the old starter, and the starter threw 4 interceptions and made them lose the game. All that work, Cortez Simmons, he was heartbroken that he lost his spot, but he understood, due to the coach being Braithwaite's father, he understood. But, people loved him, and it's weird that there's rumors coming out that he wasn't a good leader, even though he absolutely was. Cortez Simmons, though, isn't like Pop Warren, in the fact that Warren, he didn't have the arm talent, but, he's able to read defense because he's the offensive coordinator for the team. Cortez Simmons, on the other hand, he's a gunslinger like James Hunter Frills, and people say he's the luckiest quarterback to play. I mean, he would throw up balls that James Hunter Frills II would only wish he could throw, on these, absolutely insane, breaking 4 sacks, running around, throwing it deep, having the receiver catch it in double coverage. Frills tried doing that a couple times, and it made him look horrible, but everyone says that Cortez Simmons is amazing, but the fact is Simmons, on a play-to-play basis, had much better ability to read defenses, and I think that's very solid. And if there was a quarterback to be drafted, I would say Cortez Simmons. I mean, he has everything to do with that team, and now he's going to the FFL, and I think he can really make it. But will a team draft a quarterback this year? There's only a couple that I can think will, but there's so many great other talents, like in receiver, and what we're about to say in the last player, who's a tight end. I mean, there's just too many spots to fill, and quarterback's just not one of them. So, we're just going to have to see if these guys will go to UDFAs, or will they get drafted. We'll just have to see. Now, Rashawn James, tight end, I mean, he's also thinking about playing receiver as well, which more teams are actually starting to look at tight ends to move to receivers, especially vertical threats, because of Angel Lopez for the Cavalry. Has really shown that even though he's missing solid hands, he's able to get open because of his size and stride and route running. Rashawn James, same thing. He's an even better player than Lopez ever was in basketball. He won 3 state championships in high school, and then he also won 3 state championships in football at the same exact time. He is a beast. And in developmental, he's been one of the best receiving threats in years. Due to his route running, he has a little bit of blocking too, and he's 6'4", so he's an undersized tight end and an oversized receiver. He's a spectacular player. But he wanted to play basketball. Now he's just announced that he will play football full time. Now, here's the issue. People say he doesn't love football, and that's why he's falling in the draft. Also, there's a receiver not pictured here. His name is Shady Monroe. Now, he is a 6'8" specimen of a receiver with super high agility. His private workout has come out, and his agility, his speed, his footwork, his route running is all top-notch elite. He has also solid hands like Rashawn James. But Monroe was injured all last season with a calf injury. And on top of that, he only played 6 games the year before due to him not having a spot on a team. And so he's kind of a no-name, but in private workouts, he's been amazing. Now, Rashawn James, I personally think, should be taken in the top 5. Will he? We don't know. Especially because we don't know the lottery yet. The lottery will be announced on the Discord sometime either after this video or after the next video. Now, the fact is that Rashawn James, like I said, has elite route running and elite hands as well. I mean, he's Angel Lopez 2.0. So, a team running a lot of crossing routes, like let's say the Cavalry, they do have a pick at the end of the draft. I mean, he could possibly go there and replace Tanner Beckham III, move Lopez, and then they can have this amazing core. But Beckham III is also amazing, and Cavalry don't need a receiver. So, where will Rashawn James go, we don't know. But it is certain that he will play football, and that some people are just dumb when it comes to trying to scout these players. And that will be it for this video. I'm sorry it's kind of lame doing it like this with overlays and not many gameplay parts. But it's just something I had to do for this week. I ran out of time. But next week will be the first playoff game. I want to thank you for all your patience and all your support on the videos lately. And I definitely will see you guys next Thursday. And also, tune into the Discord. Keep updated on the Discord. I don't like making update videos about life or about videos and stuff like that, because they just don't do well. So, it's easier for me to just go in the Discord and update you guys. So, make sure to go in the Discord. The link is in the description down below. And I'll see you guys there. See ya. Peace.